All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another special Black Desert video. So, as you guys know, the succession changes have been released with the recent patch as of August 24, I believe. So, it's about that time again where we make our updated Dark Knight guide or diary. So, what we're going to be showing you is basically all the gear, add-ons, and everything. And I wanted to make this video a little bit more beginner friendly, so people who are either looking to start the game and try out Dark Knight, or people looking to re-roll onto Dark Knight, I just want to give you a short summary of how it works and important skills to get. So if you are new, I have a season for whatever this latest Draconia Awakening one was, and you guys can watch that. I did a Dark Knight, and you guys can just see how I progressed, and it's like super beginner friendly. So a lot of this stuff, how I enhanced everything on season, you can watch that. I'll probably leave a link in the description. But for anyone else who is a little bit more advanced or just want to know how Dark Knights work, here we are. So let's start off with a roll. Dang, that's not a 12. All right, so in terms of gearing, Dark Knights are, how do I put it? They're glass cannons, but they do pretty good in terms of damage, or like, they're glass cannons. That means they do a lot of damage, but they also die to everything. They're also a magic type, which you may imagine. The way you check your character is if you go to your battle stats, hit P, and then if you see the combat type, it'll tell you what class you are. Despite being a class like this, Dark Knights, you would think they are like melee, but they're not. They're magic. Surprising. It's weird. I don't get it either, but whatever. Just expect that Dark Knights, it's kind of on the squishier side, but they deal a decent amount of damage. And I know a lot of people have been saying, oh, Dark Knight's OP. No, they're not. They're good. They're better than before, but that's also the succession spec as well. And I think they're just more in line with all the other classes. Obviously, there are some classes that still need to be buffed and some classes that need to be toned down. But I think Dark Knights are just in the middle or slightly above the middle. So that's where they're at right now. So anyway, you may be wondering, Succession or Dark Knight, or Succession or Awakening for Dark Knight. Now, unlike some other classes, I think both of them, Awakening and Succession, are very solid. I have messed around with both of them. I have different presets for like PvE, and I even have a preset that I just made for the Arena of Solaire, which we'll go over another time. But yeah, so I think right now we want to talk about Succession because it just got some changes. I think what you should use depends mostly on how comfortable you are with all your skills. So if you are a beginner, I think I would play with Succession a little bit more because it requires a little bit less skill points than Awakening, and it doesn't require you to memorize like 2 different kits. So I think Succession is definitely more beginner friendly, whereas Awakening is definitely safer at some other grind spots, and it's better for more like ranged attacks. So for PvP, they're both good. For PvE, it depends where you're grinding, because Awakening grinds a little bit faster at lower end spots or places where you could, AoE things down faster, whereas Succession is more damage focused at higher end spots. But the downside is you are in melee range at all times. So if you get hit by something at like Ash Forest or anywhere high end, you're gonna get chunked for a lot. So anyway, as a beginner, what are you expecting in terms of gear? So Dark Knights are DR classes. A long time ago, a few years ago, I played Evasion. I thought it was fine, but generally they do not scale off of DR or Evasion, so they are a DR class. What does that mean? DR versus Evasion And some classes have higher evasion multipliers just by the class. Like ninjas, for example, they're higher. And what they're trading evasion is like they're trading damage for more survivability, whereas Begs, or like using a Begs and Uragon versus Libra and Muskins, you're getting more accuracy and DR tankiness in a way. So you'll be doing more damage, but your survivability will be lower. So that's just like a very basic DR versus evasion. So now that we got that covered, what do we build? Mostly we build AP because we are glass cannons, and more damage, kill them before they kill you. That's kind of the Dark Knight mentality. So where do you start? My mentality of how you upgrade, well, I have an entire thing. If you are like actually new from season, you go from Tuvala, then turn all your Tuvala gear into the basic boss gear, and then whichever one goes, I would prefer like weapons first. And I have like an entire video series of how to gear up from there. But what do you do later on? What we're going to show you is artifacts and Kudum versus Nuver. So in PvP, you use a Nuver. In PvE, you use Kudum. Some classes can get away with Kudum, but this is a DP that's more evasion focused, as you guys can see. This is basically the equivalent of a Kudum at C20. So as you guys can see in the stats, you do get DP and DR and evasion, but a lot of that is evasion that doesn't really scale well. So we use it for PvE only just because of the extra stats, but in PvP, the tankiness you get over here, you don't feel it. So that's why we would just swap over to a Nuver and get more damage so you kill them faster. There are very rare times where you feel like with Nuver, you don't have enough accuracy because you are really just giving up a lot. So different kinds of builds I've seen were people using Turo belts, and then people also using, what are these, Dawn earrings? And when you see people doing those, like Turos and Dawns, those are people who are really geared, and they have enough silver to be able to buy different sets and swap out like AP and accuracy. However, I'm going to go over some cheaper options that you guys can do. So that way you guys can have like a more or less even playing field on the same way, and you don't have to have 315 AP or something. So now that we got that covered in terms of gear, let's look at artifacts. What do I use? I used a magic AP set, an accuracy set, an experimental HPDR. If I had that second all damage reduction, I would use that, but this is more of an experiment one. So let's look at this one for now. I use the magic APs because we are a magic class as we established before. And if you look at this one, basically all of them except for the air attack ones you want to use. Once I can get my hands on a strike crystal, we replace the air attack damage +1 for the strike, which is crit damage, and that's just straight up better. It's just the strike crystals are 5 billion silver, and they're permanently sold out. It's not that I can't afford it, they're just sold out. So me getting one is kind of hard, so whenever I do get one, that'll be replaced. So if you want to look at this, and 2 magic APs and this setup. Now for accuracy, this is another option you guys can use for PvP. I think it is very strong, but it also depends on who you're dueling against. So as you know, we're doing magic accuracy, and we have 2 of them. So what does that mean? We get an extra 16 accuracy off of that. And then plus we get another 12 accuracy off the light stones. So that's 28 accuracy. Now, if you look at that, this I just said we got 28. Now let's look at a Turo belt. If you are comparing This one, you get 34 at Pen. Even if you had Tet, I see a lot of people running Tet just because obviously Pen is quite a jump in silver cost. So Tet is 30 for like, I don't know, 17.5 billion. This may change depending on the server you're on, but that's still quite a bit of silver, 17.5 billion. So instead of spending that much, we go the accuracy route for 2 light stones plus the combo. So that's why we're getting the extra 12. And then we use double accuracies of 28. So it's basically the same thing and doesn't cost 17 billion. But most of the time, I would say when in doubt, and let's say you're not even close to 300 AP, let's say you're within this 260 to 280 range, I think most of the time you'll be using the magic AP ones and you'll do just fine. Accuracy is more of a specifically tailored one where if you feel like you need it, it'll help. But if you're fighting all players that are just running DR, it maybe not as much. This one is an experimental one that I use. Ultimately, it's all just DR. And the reason why we're doing this one is we get an extra 18 plus the 12. So that's 30 DR plus another 3. And it would be another 3 if I had a second one, but I don't. So that's 33 DR. And if we look at, I don't know, just take any piece over here. I don't know, it doesn't matter really. If we just take that one, that's like a free almost pry gear, and that's just a lot of extra DR. And do I actually notice it in PvP like RBF, Node Wars, open world PvP? Yeah, I actually do notice myself being tanky. However, with that said, if you're doing like a big node war and you decide I'm gonna go in with full DR and jump into a ball by myself, that's not saving you. It's just how it is. So in 1v1s, it's pretty good. Small scale like 1vx's, it could help you, but I think overall it really depends on your AP. So just the magic AP, accuracy, or if you want to feel the like defensive stats. This one is experimental, as you guys can see. Let's see, what next? Let's look at the add-ons. So these are the add-ons I use. This is actually, I changed it up like 2 days ago. And this is more for PvP focused because I grind with these add-ons on. That means I don't make as much trash loot as people who have full PvE setups. But if I have to duel for spot, I don't have to change it and I'm good. So if you want to take a screenshot, go for it. That's my succession. And oh yeah, I forgot one thing we forgot to show. Here are my crystals. I know this is a common question I get asked a lot. So if you are on season, what crystals would you use that are like budget options before you go to the full PvE whatever you're doing? So budget options for your main hand, you would use precision crystals, which are these things. You can buy these off the market. And the difference is it's 8 accuracy and 10 all ignore resist ones. Here, it's 12 accuracy and the same ignore resistance. The difference, 4 accuracy per crystal at the cost of like 70 million silver each. So that is a budget option. What other crystals? If you are using an offhand for PvE, oh, I guess for PvP as well, I use the corrupted magic crystals, and these just give more damage and make you squishier, which is probably not what you want. What you would want instead is, where do I think I have a few extras for some reason. Okay, these things. Magic crystal of infinity, critical hit, and it just gives you the extra crit damage and the 1 million. However, I think it is pretty hard to get these right now for some reason because I think they took it out of a loot table. Oh, never mind. You can just buy them then. All right, you're good. Just buy them. So there's that. They're hard maxed. So yeah, that's the budget option. The 1 million each instead of corrupted is, I think, 58. So ultimately, I think these are more damage, but they also make you a little bit squishier. Do you really notice it? Not really. However, 1 million versus 55 million is quite a difference for a new player. What else? Silent Fallen Guard armor. We have Jin special evasions. Now these crystals are really dumb hard to get because the only way you can get it is by doing node wars and sieges. And then even after that, you have layers of RNG to get the Jin version. So the budget option is this one. It's 500k. However, the hardest part is there's probably like 20,000 orders on every server. So that's the dumb thing. How do you get these? I'm not really sure. I think you grind. I don't know. I think they took it out of a loot table, but the way you got it before was like abandoned iron mine in like Medaya or near Altanova. But clearly that is not the case anymore. So I'm not really sure. Well, how to obtain. That's how you obtain it. Just look at the tooltip. But it's going to cost you a lot more, but it doesn't matter. These crystals are your budget ones. And even then, all of these are pretty sold out as well. So this has a lot of orders on it. I got pretty lucky to have mine. And if I lost them by dying to PvE, I would actually be kind of upset to the point where I'm thinking about just tagging another character. And so if I die and lose these crystals, it's on a tagged one until they make it easier to get. So either way, there is the budget and non-budget, but they're really hard to get either way. Viper, or in the gloves, we use Jin Vipers. That's pretty standard for every class right now. They just give accuracy, and you specifically wanted Jins because they give more accuracy. The other ones, the Wan and Bon ones, it's less accuracy, but it is budget, so up to you. And kind of just want to get something as close to as much accuracy as you can. I use RBF adamantines because I do like the resistances, and here is extra damage to humans, so PvP crystals. If you don't PvP and you don't feel like it, what you would do is go 4 Hooms if you want, like these crystal, the Han Hooms, because they just give you a lot of defenses. And so if you're like PvEing, it allows you to try different spots when you're grinding. So I think overall this would just give you more accuracy, more armor, defenses, and overall good 4-piece. If you are just overall like it, I don't know if it's actually cheaper or not. It might be the same price, but it is a safer bet, especially for like lower geared players who just want more overall stats. Whereas what I use on my shoes and helmet, they're more tailored towards PvP, as I mentioned. And the ones in your awakening weapon, now I know this is a little bit different and not everyone has it, because getting a Garmoth's Heart these days is kind of stupid and it's like difficult, and you have to win some RNGs off of either Garmoth or a marketplace. But I used the Alucas PvP crystals to basically you're getting extra human damage. If you only grind where are they? Hold up. I'll find this, don't worry. These are awakening. Okay, so you either have the red or the purple. Red is for PvP. Purple is for PvE. The difference, if you look at the blue text right here, extra damage to monsters +7, so PvE grinding. Extra damage to humans +7, PvP. It's really optional. Depends what you want. And these are kind of like meme ones. You could try them out, but they're memes. So honestly, more damage to humans or enemies. So up to you on which one you want. I think the PvE ones are harder to get because more people grind, but really depends on where you grind as well. So once again, my crystals and add-ons are more PvP focused. That's because that's what I like doing. This one doesn't even really matter, but let's talk about it. So as you guys know, in your like pearl outfit, you can add a crystal to it. So the way it works is if you take any armor, for example, what you would do is get one of these things. They kind of give it away every now and then for like events. The equipment tailoring coupon. What this allows you to do is turn like this plus like this coupon turns one of these red outfits into a crystal, and then be careful which one you do because one is movement speed and one is crit, I believe. And you just look at the text. I think I have all movement speeds, but either way, what you would be looking at is a crit crystal or a movement speed one. So it really depends on what you do. I think I value the mobility a little bit higher, but if you want crit is always good. So that's the extra icing on top. Is it necessary or mandatory? Not at all, because you can get the stats off of food buffs anyway. So let's see, what else do we want to talk about? Oh yeah, add-ons. Take a screenshot. That's my PvP add-ons. All right, so let's talk about skills and what you should get as a Dark Knight. So how do I do this? Let's categorize the skills into light, medium, and heavy. And heavy meaning they do the most damage, but they're slower and you can't use them as often. So basically they're either finishers or the attacks that do big damage, whereas medium ones are like the ones you put in between your big skills. Like let's say you do a Wheel of Fortune and then you do something that would be a medium and then another big or something or heavy. And then light attacks are just things you can throw out freely when your big heavies are on cooldown, if that makes sense at all. Or we could just do it 1, 2, 3, 3 being the high. I don't know how to explain it. It's just priorities and fillers and what skills you use on cooldown. So if you are a new player, some priority skills you should look out for. Lunacy of Vidir. This one is a heavy attack and it does a lot of damage. It's one of the things that got tweaked recently in the latest update. It's mostly it's like a PvE change, but no more. It only bounds on like hits. So either way, it's still a good skill. You use it, and it's one of the skills you get as soon as you can unlock it. Wheel of Fortune, also a pretty big skill. I think this is one of your highest priority skills for both PvP and PvE, because for Succession, this is what it looks like. Let's say an enemy is over there, or like enemies are all around you. What do? You Wheel of Fortune, and that's a huge circle around you. That means you're hitting AoE, and it helps with grinding. And plus, in PvP, if people are within you, it allows you to float them, air attack, and it's a super arm. In theory, it's a super armor on during the skill, but sometimes I feel like it does not work. But maybe that's just server lag. Blame it on that. In theory, it has super armor. Comma Slash is more of a PvP skill in my eyes. So it allows you to have forward guard, and so I like it. It's a good skill, but I think it's more for PvP. and it looks like this. You can hold it, and let's say you see an enemy in front of you. When you're holding it, you have a forward guard on you, and you can also combo it with your Dusk. So if you're holding it and then move, and then it'll fire off after you like teleport. So that's good. You could try to get behind your enemy or to the side and let it off, and pretty good. In theory, if you do it right, you get a knockdown on them, and then you win. Now, Enforcement is a very strong ability. It is like surprisingly strong with all the flows and the prime, and it's one of those things that happens really fast to the point where most people won't really like notice it hit them until it's too late. So whereas you can kind of predict a Wheel of Fortune or a Lunacy, so Enforcement is something like, you first of all, what you would do in comboing. So this is what it looks like. Down, and then that's what it looks like. It makes a cross and it hits your enemy. What you could do with the flow when you hold it down and then unveiled. So sometimes what I do, well, I used to have an add-on, I believe. I used to have Unveiled Dagger, which would with the attack speed bonus. So what I would do is like that, and then do that with Pervasive. So I think it's still a good option, but more things change over time. So what you would use Unveiled Dagger for is like a filler before you use the heavy. And when you do that, in theory, you would stiffen your enemy. So like right here as a stiffen, and then you Enforcement, and then the whole like 2 CC combo limit. It's really weird how some things work. So either way, Enforcement, very good one. Might as well just get everything if you can. One thing they changed recently was Ravage Rake and the flow, and now it has forward guard during the skill, which is, it kind of looks like this. Hold up. Oh, it for a second. Does it just not work if there are enemies around? Oh, never mind. I was just hitting the wrong buttons. Oops. So anyway, this is a good one. You don't really use it too often in PvP. I find myself using it more in PvE. Once you like group the enemies together, you can just like slash them multiple times. But ultimately, now that it has forward guard, I think it's useful. Damage wise, I think it would be not in the heavy tier, but like the mid tier one. And things like Airstrike, which got the biggest buff you've ever seen, now has super armor during the animation. So like in theory, when it works, you just can't get CC'd through it, which is amazing. So Airstrike is a good PvP skill. It allows you to like basically close in on your enemy, a gap closer. And now that it has super armor, it works better. It's not as jank. And Slanted Balance is something that allows you to float your enemy. So like, let's say they're coming at you, you'd go to the side and just slanted balance them. So these are not damaging abilities. Well, they do damage, but it's not like your primary source of damage. They're more for like PvP and catching them to CC them. So not a heavy, not really a filler either. It's either an opener, or I guess it could be used as a filler, but mostly I see people using it as openers. Pervasive is a filler, which is a very, like, it's pretty strong actually. Everything else here, it's just nice to have. I guess things to use when all your other skills are on cooldown. Basically all of these. Very good PvP openers, filler. I wouldn't say this is a heavy, but this is also filler, but it's pretty good. Enforcement is a heavy, high damage ability. Comma Slash is situational PvP. Wheel of Fortune's heavy. Obsidian Ashes, I honestly use this more for PvE. And like, let's say I'm looking at this tree right here, right? And then there's an enemy, let's say that tree over there. So what I would do is I would use that and pull the enemy over here, whereas we would also use the Shadow Strike Rabam, and we would pull the enemy over there. So then both enemies would be coming towards you, and that way you just pulled two things, and then you can AoE it, and like that. So good, isn't it? So yeah, I guess these are what I use for Rabam skills as well. Shadow Strike versus Wrath of Vidir. So now all of these abilities, in my opinion, are stuff you use either situationally or when your other abilities are on cooldown. So the best thing to do is, if you don't really know what you want, look at what they do. So these both give bound, and this one gives a down attack. However, I don't really like the Corrupt Ground as much for most things. So I use Shadow Strike. It helps me pull things at a range, whereas Corrupt Ground is kind of like a burst. It looks like this. So like things around you will pull in closer, whereas you could shift X and pull at a range. So that's the difference. I personally like this one for PvE more. Now, Unveiled Fate versus Obsidian Blaze. Unveiled Fate actually got a buff recently. I still personally prefer Obsidian Blaze. Why? Neither of them are particularly amazing. One just gives a super armor and one does not. So that's how I usually pick some of my skills. And I just personally like this one a little bit more, because if you're going to use it, you might as well be protected while you're using it. Slanted Slash versus Balanced Strike. This one gives a forward guard. This one gives Invincible. I think Invincible is worth a little bit more. The difference is one is a 14-second cooldown, the other is 35 seconds. So you are definitely not spamming this one at all. It's more of a can you use it situationally? Will it help you? And also a really good filler. Whereas this one, like, neither of them are really that good. It's just which one will you be using more situationally? And I think the Balance Strike, once again, I picked these based off protection abilities. So because this game has some of the worst balancing I've ever seen in any video game, and plus, like, I hate when I have to say this, and it should never be like this, but FPS in this game means a lot more than in some other games. Because some other games have, like, actual long cooldowns. Like, for example, I don't know, pick World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy. You have global cooldowns. And you can't just spam things, and like if you had like 200 FPS in that game, it means a little bit less than in here. So I don't know, when people say FPS equals DPS, it's because you can fire off skills a little bit faster with higher FPS. It's stupid. Should it be that way? No, it should not, but that's the way it is. But anyway, yeah, I value protected abilities a lot higher than some other people. And mostly, I think this mentality comes from, like, I've done a lot of PvP, and especially if you're doing high-end PvP where people are either equalized gear, which is Arena of Solaire, or, like, let's say you're fighting someone with, I don't know, 317 AP. Chances are, no matter what happens, whoever gets CC'd first is going to lose, because at this level of gear, there's not much that can save you unless you're playing a really tanky class with tanky, like, specifically tanky gear. So, like, if someone had the same gear as me, whoever gets CC'd first just loses. That's how it is. And especially if you are under-geared fighting someone, then, well, you better hope you're protected, otherwise you're just getting one-shotted. That's the harsh reality of this game, is after a certain AP point, you're just gonna, you either kill someone before they kill you, or you don't. So that's why I chose that. So let's actually talk about some awakening abilities, because awakening is also a good spec, and I think people should look into it if they want to try it as well. So Overlord is the equivalent of the successions. Where is it? Where is it? Either way, it's this one, Prime Spirit Absorption. Yeah. Can I actually not find it? Can't find it. Oh yeah, also Nocturne is a very good skill as well. It's gonna take some getting used to, because you see all these guards on it. It's directional. So you don't just get like literally everything. So you just have to figure out how it works. You use it and then hit a direction, and then it does something different. Oh yeah, never mind. Here it is. Spirit Legacy is also a big heavy hitter. You could spam it, but you shouldn't spam it. It is basically big bomb, big damage. Spirit Legacy, Twilight Dash. Don't Twilight Dash into enemies unless they are 1% and you are very confident in your ability to beat them. If you're diving in with a Twilight Dash into a ball against an enemy, you're just going to get grabbed and die. So that is not good. You use it for escape or big maneuver plays. Spirit Absorption is your E-buff equivalent. So that high priority awakening skills are Shattering Darkness, Seed of Catastrophe, Spirit Hunt. Use this to transition into Awakening and Main Hand. Get the flows, of course. Spirit Legacy, same thing as Succession. Trap of Vidir is a very good reaction ability to either get yourself out of sticky situations. Dark Nebula is a good thing to place down to either move away or you toss it into a ball and see what happens. Grip of Grudge got buffed like a few months ago, and it's actually not bad now, so it's worth getting. And honestly, I use it more in PvE than PvP, but it's not bad now. Cluster of Despair is a very solid skill. They made it a lot easier to use in a few months ago in a patch. So basically, the way you would use it before is you use a skill, and then you'd use LMB plus RMB, and then it fires off like a flow. But nowadays, you use your skill, and you just hit RMB. So it's one less button. It's a very solid skill. It's not a high damage one, but it does increase a lot. Like, it adds to your flow of skills, so I think it's very good. In terms of cores for Awakening, you really have two options that most people use. I've seen people use like other ones, but that's very tailored towards how they play. But in general, if you are new and just have no idea what to do, I would go with Seed of Catastrophe, because it gives super armor during the skill, and you guys know how I feel about protective abilities. And just making sure that another ability that you have gets protection. That's good. I've seen people use Shattering Darkness core because it gives stiffness on hits, and this is one of your openers in PvP. So like if you stiffness them, it allows you to move in Gap Closer and then do your combo on them. So I think this is a very solid PvP one. Seed of Catastrophe Super Armor is just an overall good one. I've seen people do Spirit Hunts. It's kind of sketch, but I mean, very specific playstyle to the point where I think I'd still choose Shattering over Spirit Hunt. But when in doubt, I like to use Seed of Catastrophe. Just having the extra protection is always good. So that's about it. I think you guys have seen my add-ons. Let's talk about Awakening add-ons. You know what? I think I could just show you. I hate how they have like a 10-15 minute timer to show you add-ons, but here. This is my Awakening PvP one. And I wish you could switch back freely, but no, it has to have 10 minutes. So once again, a lot of things I do are PvP focused. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, you can. And yeah. Well, I guess here, let me just show you while we're at it. This is what things look like. You go in, Twilight Dash, and then do that as well. If you want to go faster, do that. And then you don't really use too many like non-awakening abilities while there. There are definitely a lot of combos you could do and stuff like that, using over bombs in the meantime. But overall, this is a very like awakening, I would say, is safer. But it also, as you guys saw, I had like 490 extra skill points. Both my main hand or succession and awakening are maxed out. However, I have an extra like 200 something skill points on succession because we don't have the extra tree. So just keep that in mind, that if you are fully maxing out your tree, you will need a lot more. However, I think just in general, to get all the relevant skills, I think about like 1,800 skill points is your good point to be at. So you definitely be getting Spirit Blaze last. These three, Touch of Exploitation, not as relevant. Spirit Blaze is nice to have, but it's not a high priority. So here's how you use Spirit Blaze. Here's how it works. You could use R or down RMB plus the flow. So it would look like 1, 2, right? So you saw how it swung twice, right? So I like to hotkey the flow because guess what? This one does not have a protected abilities, and you know how slow that went when you saw the 2 swings. If someone sees that, you know what they're gonna do? They're just gonna walk around to the side and grab you, and it's over. So what I like to do is skip the entire first swing and just hit the flow and just go to the second one. I use this as a filler when things are in cooldown because you are using these primarily. Trap of Vidir, so it's like that, and then your Grip of Grudge moves back like that. Dark Nebula is kind of a fun one, actually, because it looks like that. Is it really good? It's okay. One of those things you'd fill in with anything else. But yeah, overall, that's like all the skills. Hopefully you learn some stuff as a beginner. There's no real right or wrong succession or awakening. I think they're both good, unlike other classes where one is significantly stronger than the other. I think both of these have good uses. Also for Rabomb skill enhancements, same thing, both succession and awakening. So I don't know, it really just depends. Which one do you like more? I personally find awakening is a lot flashier and cool, which is what I played when I first started, because I thought, I was like, oh, I was looking at the trailers when it first came out. I was like, oh, that's cool. It's flashy abilities. And I think it's cool. But Succession is now out, and we're trying out the new stuff. So I kind of switch back and forth every now and then. Depends where I grind. But once again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Leave it in the comments. Join the Discord. Everything is down in the description. And yeah, I will see you guys later. Have a fantastic day.